Christ is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. On this fifth Sunday of Easter, let's take our bearings and navigate our faith together, trusting God to guide our hearts along the journey of everyday life. Today, we're diving into a powerful message about our identity as a community, our connection to Jesus as the way, and what it actually means to be a living stone in God's house. Whether you've been a lifelong Catholic or you're just curious about the faith, there's a place for you in this conversation. Let's start with the early church. In the book of Acts, we see that even the very first Christians dealt with growing pains. As the number of followers increased, a conflict arose between two groups. On one side, you had the Hellenists, who were Greek-speaking Jews, and on the other, the Hebrews, who were native to the area. The Hellenists felt their widows were being overlooked during the daily food distribution. It's a very human problem, isn't it? But the solution was beautiful. The apostles realized they couldn't do everything themselves. They needed to focus on prayer and the ministry of the word, but they also knew that caring for the poor is a sacred duty. To solve this, they created a new role, the deacon. By laying hands on 7 reputable men, the apostles shared their authority to ensure no one was left behind. This teaches us that in God's family, every person, especially the vulnerable, must be cared for, and everyone has a specific, unique role to play.
Now, St. Peter uses a beautiful analogy to describe who you are. He calls Jesus the living stone, the cornerstone that holds the whole building together. Even though some people rejected him, God chose him as precious. Think about a grand temple or cathedral being built. Peter says you aren't just a spectator standing outside watching it go up. You are a living stone being built into a spiritual house. If Jesus is the cornerstone, he's the anchor. If he's removed, the whole structure of our lives falls apart. Peter also uses a phrase that can sound a bit formal, the royal priesthood. In the Catholic tradition, this doesn't mean everyone is a priest who says Mass. It means that every baptized person has the dignity to offer their daily lives, their hard work, their moments of joy, and even their suffering as a spiritual sacrifice to God. Your everyday life is your worship. In the Gospel of John, we find the disciples feeling pretty anxious. Jesus has just told them he's leaving, and they're worried. Jesus comforts them with one of the most famous lines in the Bible, "I am the way and the truth and the life." Let's break that down. When Thomas asks, "How can we know the way?" Jesus clarifies that the way isn't a map or a set of directions. He is the way. To follow the way to the Father, we don't need a GPS. We simply follow Jesus' example of love and obedience. Jesus also promises that in his Father's house there are many dwelling places. I love that. This is a reminder that there is a place specifically prepared for you in God's kingdom. You aren't an afterthought. And finally, when Philip asks to see the Father, Jesus points to himself. He responds, "Whoever has seen me has seen the Father." This is a central Catholic belief. If you want to know what God's character is like, look at Jesus. His mercy, his healing, and his sacrifice are the Father's love made visible.
So, how do we take these big spiritual ideas and use them moving forward? Here are 4 quick ways. First, identify your table ministry. Just as the first deacons were chosen to serve at table, look for a practical way to serve your community this week. This could be as simple as checking on an elderly neighbor or volunteering for an hour. Second, offer a spiritual sacrifice. Since you're part of that royal priesthood, choose one difficult task today, maybe a tough project at work or a chore you dislike, and do it with love, offering it up to God as a quiet prayer. And third, follow the way in your decisions. When you're faced with a tough choice, ask yourself which path looks most like the way of Jesus. Choose the path of truth and life over the easy or dishonest route. And finally, trust the foundation. When you feel troubled or anxious, remember Jesus' command, do not let your hearts be troubled. Spend 5 minutes in silence, placing your trust in the living stone that never shifts. In summary, this lesson teaches us that the church is a living, growing body where every member has a vital role to play, whether in leadership or in humble service like the first deacons. Jesus reveals himself as the definitive way, truth, and life, the only path to the Father and the cornerstone upon which our entire identity as a chosen race and royal priesthood is built. By recognizing that we are living stones in God's spiritual house, we are called to transform our daily actions, such as offering a difficult moment at work as a prayer, into spiritual sacrifices that announce the praises of Him who called us out of darkness into His wonderful light.